ways of an unreflecting mind. The problem of conduct is nothing less than the problem of deciding how one's life should be lived. And we are able to address this problem only on the assumption that there is some sort of reliable knowledge available to us as regards the sorts of lives that are possible and the general consequences of adopting one form over another. So if only implicitly one takes a position on essentially ethical matters only after having already taken a position on what? On what one knows. Now, were there no basis on which to plan or conduct a course of life, no basis upon which to choose one form of life over another, there probably would be no real problem to be solved politically. The problem of governance arises in light of conflicts at the level of conduct, conflicts at the level of those core precepts that incline persons to act in certain ways. Every community, every known human enclave of any appreciable size, includes leaders, kings, chiefs, tyrants, presidents, senators. Now, what's the basis upon which modes of leadership are chosen? What's the basis upon which leaders are resisted, revolutions staged, radical upheavals fomented? What's the basis upon which territorial boundaries are established and honored? What's the basis upon which a people comes to understand itself as a people in virtue of the form of government or form of leadership or laws that it possesses? These are the essential questions. What is it I'm able to know? How should I live my life? What are the political realities and options facing me? Is this the sort of polis? Is this the sort of community? Is this the sort of tribe capable of sustaining, nurturing, and otherwise furthering what human beings take to be their best interests, those best interests often specified in the form of myth and tradition? Now, long before the appearance of philosophy as such, issues of this sort were engaged, often heroically, by persons and by entire communities, as they are to this minute. Indeed, philosophy comes about at a very late stage in the development of this engagement, in the development of this daily encounter with the problem of knowledge, the problem of conduct, and the problem of governance. Let's consider the period from 800 to 600 BC, in which there are so many remarkable developments throughout the populated world, developments in the Celtic world, in the Nile Valley, including centrally the Hebrew prophets, in India, and in the Mediterranean, developments that are pre-philosophical, but obviously anticipating a kind of philosophical inquiry. Now, we see in the writings or teachings of such eras myths that often involve a voyage or journey of some kind. To get from A to B, there are obstacles that must be overcome. To overcome the obstacles, a kind of wisdom or knowledge is necessary. This might be borne in by birds or by other kinds of animals, by omens and prophecies, visions and voices, some of the guides being revelatory. There might be oracles to explain the right choice or direction. Very often it is the wise man's counsel that is sought. One sits in the presence of the wise. One sits next to the wise man and addresses questions to him. The etymology of the word Upanishad carries the action of sitting next to sit next to the master. And I say between 800 BC and 300 BC, the Hindus would develop the Upanishads, which address questions regarding knowledge, conduct, the right sort of life, the nature of authority. This is part of the quasi-mythical and at the same time pre-philosophical thought of a highly developed culture, a highly developed civilization. Well, what sorts of questions does one address to the wise man? To the prophet, thought to be divinely inspired, to the sage, whose years of reverential prayer and self-denial seem to have carved wisdom into his very bones. The questions are the abiding ones. Where do we come from? How do you explain that some things live and other things don't? How did this great earth come about? And what are we to make of the objects in the sea and sky? And do they portend certain things? How do we differ from other living things? And what is it about dead things, such that they never seem to come to life, although we hear that sometimes they do? And what kind of life should I be living? And why is there so much evil in the world? Why is it that we have wars? Now, central to the Upanishads is the notion that the universe itself and everything in it exist in virtue of some fundamental power or force or fire, a kind of cosmic soul, Atman, which in virtue of its presence gives reality to things. It gives reality to us too. We share something fundamentally in common with the universe itself. We have the breath of fire within us. We have soul within us. It is an imperishable feature of our very nature. Everything that there is participates in the cosmic Atman. And there is this sense then in the Hindu Upanishads that there's something fundamentally identical between the life of the person and the life of the cosmos, that indeed one is the microscopic expression of the macrocosm itself. Consider the Khandayogya Upanishad, where in the 8th Khanda, 3 men are discussing the origin of everything. The master expected to answer. Where it is asked, does tone come from? To which the reply is breath. And breath itself from food. And food from water. And water from heaven. And what is the source of the heavenly world? This world. Again, you see the essential unity between the fundamental explanatory device of the cosmos, including everything, and everything in its sharing. Now, these are teachings that come to equate Atman not only with fire and life and creativity, but also through Brahma, a form of knowledge, knowledge as the manifestation of spirit. And indeed, the quest for knowledge then becomes quite a natural undertaking for those invested with Atman. And Brahma then becomes the search that renders life meaningful. Well, all comes from the soul, Atman, even space itself. Creation is attributed to an imperishable and heavenly person, Purusha, who, though breathless, gives breath. Fire is his head, his eyes the moon and the sun. Again, what is Brahma? It is breath, it is thought, it is enlightenment. Thus, it is the macrocosm within the microcosm, which is oneself, both the self and the cosmos now endowed with Atman. Quote, he who knows Brahma as the real, as knowledge, he obtains all he desires, close quote. But again, who or what is Brahma? Initially in the Hindu mythology, Brahma is one of the 3 supreme deities along with Vishnu and Shiva, but is found in later developments to be the one deity that animates the entire cosmos. Out of Brahma's mind were born the seers, but out of Brahma's body came sons named for greed, anger, and the vices in general. You see the body as the grounding of what it is vice. But Brahma is also a kind of introspective activity. It's a communion with the cosmic mind with a deep, meaningful, initiatory quality. Here we have the beliefs of an ancient culture, a distinctly Eastern culture, with a set of religious values and overarching precepts that must remain unchallenged if these subtle teachings are to make sense and indeed to be incorporated into nothing less than a given form of life. The Buddha lived some 25 centuries ago, and his teachings were placed, it is said, in 3 baskets, one of them containing the so-called Bodhisattva precepts. And what are these, other than rules against killing and theft, against any form of moral degradation, against any form of cruelty or deception? Now, these are neither Eastern nor Western. They're the sort of counsel that can be ignored only at peril. Nonetheless, the teachings do not stand as philosophy as such, nor does the mode of instruction fit the philosophical template. Well, let me move now from East to West and offer certain comparisons between the Upanishads and those famous epics composed by the blind poet Homer. I'll not even attempt to answer the Homer question. Who was Homer? How many were there? What was her real name? The Homer of history is operating peril. Nonetheless, the teachings do not stand as philosophy as such, nor does the mode of instruction fit the philosophical template. Well, let me move now from East to West and offer certain comparisons between the Upanishads and those famous epics composed by the blind poet Homer.